Hello, this is Xavi, and this is an interview of the blog xaviove.es, a blog born to grow your impact in women's football, and where more than 400 people have already joined the tribe. Today, we have a very special guest, Arianna Criscione. She's a pro player for Paris Saint-Germain, an experienced goalkeeper that signed with the Parisian team last summer. She has played in many countries, from United States to Sweden, Norway, Italy, Netherlands, and now France, and clubs as Denmark's IF, Torres Calcio, FC20, Saint Etienne, Kungsbacka, Saint Malo, and currently PSG. An impressive career where she has won 3 Italian Super Cups, 1 Italian Cup, and also played UEFA Women's Champions League. From a business perspective, Arianna studied a sports management master at the FBA and also did a marketing internship at Benfica. Nowadays, she wears the colors of PSG on and off the pitch, as she works at the sponsoring department of the women's team of PSG, working to elevate the women's game from a commercial perspective. Arianna, it's priceless to have you here with us today. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me.
So last summer, Arianna, you joined PSG as a player and also as an executive at the commercial area. How is the adventure going?
Well, executive is a big word, but I'm moving along, and we have some interesting stuff in the works. I can't talk about it yet because nothing's been signed. It's not signed, sealed, and delivered. However, we are working on some interesting projects, which I think you're going to ask me about soon. But it's really good. It's amazing being able to see the pitch, what happens on the pitch, and then also being able to help other people with our activations or other things, because I know the girls a lot better than most people who just work in the office do, and I know what's currently happening on the field, which I think is a huge advantage actually in the office for everybody.
Great, absolutely. And actually, you mentioned the campaigns. We recently saw on social media that you did a crossover campaign with the NFL team Jaguars in Jacksonville. Could you tell us a little bit more about that campaign?
Yes, we're working with some of the guys on their team also do what I do, as in they play and they have outside jobs or outside work. So one of the players, his name is Najee Good. He's working with a really cool company called BPO, which I'm sure most people will start to know about. It hasn't fully hit the market yet, but it's a technology company that allows you to be more interactive and gives better fan engagement. But it basically, while you're watching a video or you see a photo, you can touch it, and that will have boxes pop up, and then you can touch those boxes and it'll explain to you more about history. It can take you in any direction that a club or a team or a business would like, the story that they want to tell and how they want to tell that story. Or it can also take you to merchandising, so it's a pretty cool thing. So Najee and his partners have discovered this, and we started talking, and it's really cool what he does on the business side, and then it's interesting what I do. So we decided if we could try to pull our 2 teams together and see if we could come up with any cool content or something that gives, surprisingly, the NFL team kind of, wants a little more of a European market, which thanks to the PSG brand, we have a few followers here in Europe. And obviously in the American market, women's football is pretty big, and we'd love to become the European team that all the Americans follow, because everybody follows a men's team in the United States, and they have little hubs or clubhouses. So how cool would it be if PSG women were the women's team that everybody followed? And that's kind of the objective, and how I hope to see our relationship grow and see what else we can do. It was really cool. We had one of their big players come and visit us. Unfortunately, he had an injury, so he wasn't able to train with his team, but he came over and came to our Champions League game, learned a lot about women's football. He was really excited to support PSG women. He's a big fan now. He wore his jersey even in London to his game. So we know that we've made a fan for life. And then they invited me to London to watch the NFL game and meet some of the players. And it was an overall really cool experience, and hopefully we'll be able to do some more cross promotion and get more of the girls involved and allow the players to interact more, because I think a lot of players can learn from each other, especially in different sports. And I think people have unique ideas about what women's football is, and we can answer the questions best. Even sometimes people think they're silly or they shouldn't ask it, but I prefer people ask the questions and we can give you the correct answer, and people can learn more about women's football and women's sports in general, and how hard we work, or our daily lives, and how it's pretty similar to what the men do, and they just don't realize.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Well, definitely, Arianna, a very pioneering campaign, very creative, and also leveraging both audiences globally. either from United States and also from in France. So I think it's a very good initiative. And looking at it from a commercial perspective, and given the fact that you have been working at PSG since last summer at the sponsoring department, what do you think that clubs in women's football could do to attract more sponsors? What do you think is the product that in clubs we have to sell in order to attract this interest from brands?
What can we do to attract more brands and the interest? I think going out and talking to more brands is obviously a good way to do it. Obviously, women's football can't sit back and wait for brands to come to them. That's definitely not going to happen. I'm not sure how much that happens in the men's game either. They are definitely out there working. I think more women's teams could have somebody dedicated to discussing and searching out these brands. I think sometimes the clubs overlook this and they pay more attention on bringing in players, bringing in other kinds of staff. But I think somebody in the marketing or directly a sponsoring role is super important. That can also be getting the activations for those marketing and really engaging the sponsors. And I think once that starts to happen, then more sponsors will come, because women's football always has a story to tell. And I think that's the most important part. And if you have somebody dedicated truly to the sponsoring and the marketing department, they can start to craft and create that story, which is what sponsoring is. You need to sell a story. You can't just sell a football game. Everybody has a football game. So different clubs have different stories, and that's what makes them special. And they need to find somebody to really breathe life into these stories and bring them forward and bring the best brands that connect to those stories.
We especially see what you're talking about this summer with the FIFA Women's World Cup in France, with activations, for instance, with Nike, with the video and the campaign Dream Crazier. And actually they were an official sponsor of the tournament. And talking about the FIFA Women's World Cup, what do you think is the main legacy that it can leave for France, as you're playing there at the first division of the Women's Football League? What do you think that the World Cup can leave for the French women's football?
So I'd love to say that the World Cup made everything better and we all put on our rosy sunglasses and the stands are full now and the sponsors are running in droves to give us money and help develop the game. Fortunately, that's not the case. I think people are more familiar with the sport now. People understand, people believe in it more in a way to say it. However, it's not the World Cup anymore. Just like Budweiser had the best commercial for the NWSL saying that you can't just be a fan, they need supporters. It's the same thing that happened in France right now. Okay, all the supporters have gone away. We have a few fans that support the clubs, but we need more people coming to the games, and unfortunately that's not happening. FIFA did an amazing job with the Women's World Cup. They had tons of advertising. They had interesting stuff for kids to do. They had a reason for people to come out of their house and watch the games. Unfortunately, most clubs, I don't think actually any club has anywhere near those budgets, even the amazing Lyon and how great they do for women's football. There's just not the same budget there to really get the mass amount of people that need to be coming, that know that the games are happening, unfortunately. So I think the FIFA World Cup, it did a really good job of letting know people we exist. However, it's going to be 4 years to the next World Cup. And at a grassroots level, even though the professional league isn't necessarily grassroots, we need fans there supporting today. If you go to a men's game at Parc des Princes, it's full. And they know that our women's team exists, but unfortunately, they're not walking over to our stadium and supporting us in the same way that we wish they would.
We are seeing, Arianna, that in other countries as England, fans are awakening and they are following women's football a lot more. Last weekend, they filled the Emirates with 77,000 spectators to see a friendly match between England and Germany. You've played in many countries, United States, Sweden, Italy. What do you think we could do to attract more people to attend women's football games? For instance, I don't know, improving fan day experience or working on the touch points. I don't know if you have any techniques or any tactics that you would think that would improve the attendance of fans. You were saying, for instance, that letting them know that the games were happening. Do you think there is any entertaining aspect that we could improve or that could improve, for instance, at PSG or in France in general to attract more people?
I don't have a cookie cutter answer for you. I wish I did. If I did, my job would be going amazing and I'd be getting so many bonuses and it would be fantastic. Unfortunately, there is no magic answer. I would say that, again, we need to tell stories in our social media. We need to get people more engaged with the players, knowing who they are and rooting, obviously, for the club, but also for certain players. we need to get more fan engagement, people caring where we are, who we're playing, why. Fan engagement also comes with, maybe it's my American side too, but the halftime shows that we have in the NFL and NBA, the pre-game tailgating. We make it an event in the United States. It's not just the 90 minutes of the game, but it's an entire event that you get to participate in and be in. And once you're in that entertainment part of it and you're really a part of the game, I think it's an added feature for the fans that they get to be in the game now. They have their own pregame, they have their own halftime, they have their own postgame, and this allows them to be a part of the team. And I think if we could bring that into women's football more, it might make a big difference in the game for us.
It's very interesting what you say, because then in that case, the fans would feel part of the game, of the experience, with an active role. And you've talked a lot about telling these stories of women's football that can be a precious asset in this sport. What do you think that the role of media? What do you think about media and their implication and the coverage they're doing about women's football?
I think it's gotten better, so that's fantastic, but it needs to be more. And we need to find a happy medium of how to broadcast that. And this is not my realm of expertise. I just want to put that out there. But we do need to figure out a way to broadcast women's football games so you can turn it on the TV or you can be there watching, where it's not necessarily competing at the same times of men's games. Clearly, that's today you can't have Real Madrid playing PSG men and PSG women playing Lyon and expect people to turn off the TV and turn it on to our game. I don't expect them to. So we need to find a way to play at certain times to be more engaging. Maybe double headers like Arsenal did this past summer, when I believe Arsenal men played Lyon and Arsenal women played Bayern Munich. I think they had over 20,000 fans at this game, and it was a great way to get the fans that just go to the men's game normally to come early and come watch the women, and possibly get more fans, get more people paying attention. However, not all clubs believe in doing this, and I think those that are starting to do it and starting to play off of each other a little bit more, they're going to have more success. England is doing a great job getting more people into the women's game in the Premier League, and I think they're doing that though by the fans who follow the men. They're trying to get them to follow the women. One team, one jersey. If you're a fan of a club, then you should like the men and the women because they're wearing the same jersey. And I think this is a great approach that you can see is doing wonders. Like you said, they had 77,000, I think it was, at Wembley last week. And there was other initiatives though that are great. There was the Red Lioness Bar that's decided that they'll play all NWSL games, and I think this is really important, and I think it's important for everybody to start to get into it. I don't think it should be geared just to women fans at all. I think it should be open to kids, boys and girls, to adults, everybody, and just get more engagement and more excitement for the game.
Arianna, you're a pro player, but you also, from the business standpoint, you have studied this master. Also, you have experience working at Benfica with the marketing internship, now at PSG. We also would like to ask you about any books that might have had a good influence in your career, or that maybe some, I don't know, or sources that has helped you in order to learn more, or no, that have had a great influence.
A great influence. Well, I'm a big reader, so, and I try to read books on football and then things that have nothing to do with football. So, some books off the top of my head about football that I think are really interesting. I'm a big fan of David Goldblatt. I like his history of the game and understanding the political and historical side of the game. I think allows you to understand it more, especially for people that don't know that much about football. I think it's really interesting to understand how football is a global game that affects economy and government that people don't realize, but it hugely, hugely makes a difference. Governments use football all the time. And again, a lot of people don't know that. So I think Goldblatt, what is it, The History of Football or something to that effect, is a great one that everybody should read. It's a bit long, so take it in chunks, but it's really good. He's another one of Making the Premier League, which is good too, to understand where those clubs come from. Soccernomics is a good one to understand the economy of the game, because again, sometimes people argue how much players get paid or why things are the way they are, but when you understand the economy of it and the amount of money that clubs are making and not just the clubs, but how that affects the economy of a city and how many jobs are created because of it. It's really interesting to learn about. I'm currently reading, what am I currently reading? I'm currently reading a book about how the Premier League got started,
Okay.
which is interesting. So not just English clubs, but actually how the League got started with Sky Sports and how the money really started to roll in the Premier League, which got the ball rolling in all the other sports. Yeah, so I guess I'd recommend all those books. And if anybody wants to know more books about football, just have them message me and I'll let them know. But I've read quite a few.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, these are great examples. We will take notes. And looking back to your career, Arianna, what is a failure or a challenge that, or an apparent failure that you think that it has set you up for later success? Maybe something that happened that in that time it seemed like a failure, but looking backwards now, it looks like necessary to achieve what you have achieved today.
Well, I'm not sure I like the word failure because that just sounds horrible and really doomsday-ish in my opinion. However, I don't know. I think there's been a lot of setbacks for sure. Tons and tons of times where I guess the ball just didn't go the way I wanted. And looking back on all of them, I would say that they all got me to where I am today, and I'm really happy where I am. I'm happy where my career is going, the trajectory that it's on. I'm happy that I have the opportunity to lace up my cleats every day again and throw myself across the grass and be there. So I would have to say that all of my quote unquote failures that you said weren't really failures, because I think I'm in an amazing position today, and I wouldn't have learned what I learned or, wiped myself off or dusted it off or wiped the blood off my knees and got back up and kept working harder and harder to keep pushing. And so I don't know. I guess I don't consider them failures, just maybe roadblocks or little deviations that helped me get to where I am today.
And does any one of them come to mind? One lesson in your career, or if you wanted to share one of them?
A lesson in my career. Well,
you were talking about these learnings, that these challenges that you like to identify them as failures. But is there anyone that comes to mind? Maybe in the United States, starting, or in another country, maybe in the
well, no,
beginning?
I mean, I guess the first one that I'd have to say, that if anybody knows me who's watching this, would obviously have to say, in university, I made quite a blooper in one of the biggest games at that time in my career, and because of that, I made like ESPN bloopers and a whole bunch of other stuff. And because of that, I ended up also transferring universities and going from Los Angeles to Boston. So that had a huge trajectory change on my life, and it was much more than just a deviation. It was like a fork in the road that went completely opposite direction. And at the time, it was a really difficult decision. I had a lot of friends, and my family's from LA, but when I got to Boston, it also was not easy. It was really hard to acclimate to the weather, to the new team. We weren't so open to a newcomer, but it taught me a lot, and it showed me how strong I can be, and that I can keep living my dream even if people want to stop me. So I guess that's the lesson to take away, that don't let anybody step, no matter how big of a mistake you make. If you can stand back up, you can keep going.
Well, very, very interesting and also life-changing, as you said. And Arianna, just to finish the interview, what a piece of advice would you give to any young professional or someone wanting to start working in women's football from a business perspective? Is there any pieces of advice on also reflecting on your career that you would give?
Nothing's going to be handed to you. Nothing should be handed to you. You're going to have to work for it and do everything you can to keep learning something new every day about the game, about the sport. Keep reading. There's so many opportunities and outlets out there to read, to find articles, to see where things are going, how the game is changing. There's books, there's just so much out there that you can keep going and keep learning more and keep pushing yourself. And if you have one problem or one door shuts, just keep knocking. Don't just be really annoying. Actually, I'd have to say most people find me annoying, and I would say just be annoying, and the doors will open one day, and you'll be happy you were annoying.
Fantastic. We will adopt that philosophy then. Uh, Thank you very much. I think that all the viewers will appreciate it a lot, because you have this unique situation, also opportunity. I think you're taking the best from it, like working from the office in the sponsorship side, but also being a professional player for the first team of PSG. So it's been a great pleasure to have you here with us, and thank you for all your insights. and
Yeah, thank you.
wish you all the best from on and off the field for this season.
Thanks. We hope that you can come to a game. Maybe we'll get Barcelona. Well, no, yeah. I guess in the next round, maybe we'll get a Spanish team.
We will see. If that happens, I will come.
Perfect.